shows as the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Fake. We can see that you don't have pants on.
Somebody hit somebody with a pie. Do something.
Giovanni yelling we're out of time as we go off the air.
Giovanni yelling a lot of things tonight.
And welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Mark It Down podcast. We are back. My name is Nick Cummings, joined by a returning James Ashanti, making his grand return back to the pod. James, welcome back. We have missed you so.
I have missed you. I have missed you guys. I am so tired, but I am so excited to be here. I have missed this. It sounds silly, but like I've genuinely missed this. You guys killed it while I was gone. I was checking out all the streams. I checked out the WrestleMania coverage. I checked out everything. And I was super jealous that I couldn't be part of it with you guys. But I am back. And what a great show to come back to, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if you were here for the best Dynamite ever a couple of weeks ago. I
wasn't. I had to watch it on my own, on my lonesome, and I couldn't talk about it.
Yeah, that one was amazing. Unfortunately, we were unable to do the show last week, which was a great follow-up to that show. I also started watching Collision, which is a thing that happened. Those have been good. And we come back with another strong entrant here tonight. So let's jump straight to the main event, which saw Hangman Adam Page face off against Kyle Fletcher in the other semifinal match in the Owen Hart Foundation tournament. Obviously, winner of this goes on to Double or Nothing to face Will Ospreay. And the winner of the Owen goes on to face the AEW World Champion at All In, or I almost called it Y'all In, which is just a great nickname. Shout out the internet. Anyway, Kyle obviously came out with that carny piece of shit. Don Callis was on commentary, and Lance Archer was also accompanying him. But thankfully, no interference from either of them, which was a little bit shocking, but quite refreshing in my opinion.
Yes.
This match was a bit bloodier than I think I expected. It was mostly accidental. Fletcher, I don't know if he sliced his back open or he got abrasion, but whatever it was, he was bleeding from his lower back after Hangman threw him into the LED board. And then Hangman actually had a bit of an abrasion on his shoulder that was bleeding a bit too. So that led to a little bit of color in some weird places, but it made the match look as rough as it was because this was a real hard-hitting match. I'll jump to the very end of the match here, where Hangman, excuse me, I guess I wasn't done with dinner yet. Hangman hit a deadeye on the apron and then hit the moonsault to the outside before he rolled Fletcher back into the ring. He then set up for the buckshot lariat and went for it. However, as he was doing so, Fletcher shoved the referee, and that distraction allowed him to kick Hangman in the dick before Hangman was able to follow through with the buckshot. What was that?
I hate when that happens.
Yeah, it's the worst. And then Fletcher followed that up with a brain buster, but Hangman, who I was this close to thinking lost there, kicked out at the last possible second. I think it was Paul Turner was the ref. His hand was like here on the mat. I don't know how the hell Hangman waited that long. Kyle then laid in a stiff kick in the corner to Hangman before bringing him up on the top ropes to try to hit the turnbuckle brainbuster. However, Hangman was able to fight Kyle off of the top and knock him down. Hangman then, I don't know how the hell he did this, from the top ropes, did the flip into the buckshot lariat, nailing Fletcher with it. And then he went to the outside, back to the apron, and hit another buckshot lariat for the win and the advancement into the finals, where, again, he will be facing Will Ospreay at Double or Nothing. James, like I said, this was a really hard-hitting main event. I'm not going to compare it to the other semifinal. I mean, that was a match for all time, and maybe one of, if not the greatest match to ever take place on Dynamite. But this still rocked. Like, it was really good. They gave it the time it needed. I think, I saw like they started doing entrances around like 9:37 here Eastern time, and when I checked the clock at the couple minutes into the match. It was 9:43. So they got plenty of time considering the run over. And I thought they utilized it really well. Obviously, right guy wins here in Hangman, and we'll talk about him facing off against Ospreay in a bit. But just, yeah, this was a fucking good match.
It's one of those things that we kind of knew what we were going to be getting eventually, right? We kind of all knew it's going to be Ospreay versus Hangman. And no one's complaining that we're here, but the question was, how are we going to get here? Was the journey going to be worth the destination? Or was the journey, I think is the real question. And I think it did. I think a match like this highlights why Hangman, why Ospreay are the best of the best. And that's not a knock on Fletcher. Fletcher absolutely lived up to the hype of everything. Fletcher is Protostar. He's living up to his nickname. But the reality of the situation is you have these massive main event talents, and they're showing why they deserve to be in a number one contender match. They're showing why they should be in the final of a tournament like this. So I thought this match was very strong. Obviously, there was, like you pointed out, a significant lack of shenanigans, all things considered. Minus a little pop to the nether region. This was just two extraordinary talents going back and forth, and they did go back and forth until in this instance, the superior talent was standing tall. Hangman Adam Page is going to the finals of the Owen. And that's awesome. That is awesome. Hangman Adam Page versus Will Ospreay. That is a match that is
First time.
Yeah, first time. And that is a generational matchup. It really could be. We've got two of the best of the future of wrestling. I know Hangman's not some kid anymore, but he's still so young when you really think about it. Will Ospreay, even younger. These guys are going to be part of the wrestling scene for the next 10 years minimum. And this is going to be an excellent, excellent matchup. I'm not worried at all about Kyle Fletcher. The Don Callis family is disgustingly stacked right now. Kyle Fletcher, Takeshita, my guy, Josh Alexander.
I believe I had that.
The weak link is Lance Archer. Like, that's crazy. So I'm not worried about Kyle Fletcher in this fight.
There also might be a loose affiliation with Trent and Rocky because, once again, they are dicks in real life.
Roppongi Vice really sucks. He really sucked. So, yeah, like, this is crazy. And I feel like I left and I came back to chaos, but it's such a cool chaos. It's such a fun chaos. And this match, I think, exemplified that very much so.
Yeah, I was trying to think of some other spots that really stood out to me, and the one was I believe Fletcher hit a brainbuster on the apron, and then 2 seconds later, fucking Hangman hit. Well, actually, they had fought on to the what was it, the LED board again, and Hangman knocked Fletcher off, and then went for the moonsault. But it looked like I thought he was going for the moonsault, but then he almost ended up catching Fletcher. Reverse DDT AJ Styles style, and then he turned that into a fucking tombstone on the outside, and they both were just killing each other. So yeah, these guys had a surprising amount of commentary. Of course, James's cat has been missing him, so she's
you have no idea.
My cat would just ignore me when we got back from long trips. He would get very upset, especially with my mom. But yeah, no, this ended up being a banger of a match, and I think the story going from here was right. I think Hangman winning is the right play here for multiple reasons. One, Hangman versus Will Ospreay at Double or Nothing in these finals is going to slap. And I do think it ends up leading to probably the Young Bucks interfering, I would think, because I think you got to set up for Swerve and Hangman versus the Bucks at All In, and them costing him the match would make a lot of sense, although I'm sure Will would be very upset. It's probably going to be one of those things where Will doesn't know, and then he wins, and then he sees the box, and he's like, oh, fuck. And then there's going to be the whole, like, I didn't want to win like that way thing with Hangman and whatever. But the other thing, too, is I knew you were saying how strong the Don Callis family is at the moment, and they very much are, but they are, slipping a little bit wins-wise. You had Takeshita lost his title, as we see the rest of James's room, and then you have both Takeshita and Fletcher losing the semifinals of the Owen. So, and Takeshita to Ospreay at that, their hated rival. So I'm enjoying the little bit of backslide that the family is having at the moment.
Yeah.
But I think the reinforcements are going to help a lot as they move forward, because they did need a bit of a reset with all of the injuries. And then obviously, again, with Takeshita losing the international championship.
No, I agree, and it's sometimes resets are necessary and good. Sometimes you're better off afterwards, and God willing, we'll see that. There's enough talent there.
Oh, absolutely, and it'll help propel the story as well. And new blood in the family helps give you new feuds, new options, and like we've been talking before Alexander joined, and now that he's here, I think that's a very good move for him, at least, at the moment, as he enters into the AEW sphere.
Yes.
All right, let's head back to the top of the card. We had an 8-man all-star tag match with Kenny Omega, Speedball Mike Bailey, Kevin Knight, and Mark Briscoe facing off against the Elite, obviously the Young Bucks of Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, and Kazuchika Okada, and Ricochet. This was a great way to start the show. I will, again, jump to the end. So after Knight hit an insane dropkick onto Ricochet, where Ricochet was up in the electric chair on Speedball's shoulders, and they were out on the apron. And Knight dropkicked Ricochet off a Speedball, off the apron, into the Bucks who were on the floor. He then went out there. I don't know if he toped or he just followed them. He probably toped. But so they were all out there fighting. And then Kenny does the Terminator dive and seemingly takes all of these guys out on the floor. And that leaves the two legal men of Mark Briscoe and Kazuchika Okada in the ring. Briscoe gets to his feet first, and he's able to hit a Death Valley driver before heading up to the top rope for a Foggy Bow. However, Matthew Jackson was able to get out of the pile, as was Ricochet. So Matthew went to one side, distracted the referee, while Ricochet snuck around behind and pushed Briscoe off of the top rope. Okada quickly capitalized and hit Briscoe with the Rainmaker, and he was able to pick up the win. Now, James, that quick recap is not doing this match any justice.
Not your fault. It's not your fault.
It was amazing. There were some great comedy spots with the Bucks and Ricochet involving him being bald, starting with Kenny switching out when Matthew was working over Kenny's arm with Ricochet, and then Matthew realizing because he palmed Ricochet's bald head, which was great. There was also points where they were working together a lot better, the bad guys were, as they were getting heat, and Matthew was draping his hair over Ricochet's head, and Excalibur was like, I've seen that picture. It's about 30 years old. But Excalibur did say it best. You didn't need to go to Reseda, California to watch a match like this, because this was classic PWG. And if you don't like if you didn't like this match, I don't know what to tell you. You just don't like wrestling.
The only person missing from this match was Chuck Taylor, quite frankly.
Yeah, on commentary.
And I was thinking about it while watching it. Even if you take PWG out of it, although it's impossible to, considering the people involved, this match was so good for so many different reasons, but one of which was that these talent have been working together in some capacity for so long that they know each other so well. And
the only odd man out was Knight, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's done some bolas recently or something.
So when you have talent that are so comfortable with one another and are so experienced with one another, it allows you to have a match like this where they can trust each other and they could have antics that are like, I loved one of my favorite spots. It wasn't even like it was a great wrestling aspect of the match, but it was like you mentioned when Matt Jackson got confused and was accidentally attacking Ricochet. And then he goes for the head grab and he's like, oh God, please, what happened to all the hair? And then Ricochet gets in his face and then he hits the head slap to Matt Jackson hits the head slap to his own partner.
Yep.
And then Ricochet then turns into Kenny who does it. And it's like, wow, I'm getting elite Bullet Club antics and they're not even on a team together anymore. Like, that's how well these talents can work together because that's how long they've known each other. And then even beyond the personal moments, even beyond the character moments, the wrestling was just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
The wrestling was just incredible. And everything was telling a story. We are on a crash course for Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. It is a matter of when, not a matter of if.
I believe Excalibur said this is the first time they've been in the ring together since that 65-minute match or whatever they had.
It's the first time they've been in a ring together as opponents.
Yes.
They definitely teamed up together when Kenny won the U.S. title and Okada was world champion. And then that was when Kenny was obviously with AEW. So this is a big deal. If you guys aren't familiar with Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada and not even the trilogy, the quadrilogy
saga.
Thank you. Why not? The saga that those men had, I can say without any hesitation, Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, their saga reignited my love for professional wrestling. I rediscovered what it means to love professional wrestling because of their feud in New Japan years ago. So we're all in for a treat in that regard. Beyond just those two, though, we've got Speedball Mike Bailey, who is fitting into AEW like a glove. We've got Kevin Knight, who is absolutely finding himself. He is the youngest talent with the most to prove, and he's proving it. Mark Briscoe, not traditionally the best quote-unquote wrestler of the bunch, absolutely deserved to be there on popularity alone. He felt like just as much of a star as anybody else in this matchup. And how much does Ricochet feel like he absolutely fits in with this new elite?
Hey, kind of, yeah. I didn't even think about it, but yeah.
Answer a text and maybe. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this matchup. I really, really had a good time with it. Kenny is just being presented to us as a megastar. The crowd reaction to him, when they had their entrances and you had all the baby faces coming out first, it was Speedball, it was Knight, it was Briscoe, and then they wait a moment for Kenny.
Yeah,
that crowd is going crazy for him. They are Kenny, and that's before even a hint of his music plays. So this was such a great way to start the show. From start of the show to final bell, 1, 2, 3 bell, it was like a half hour.
Oh yeah, no, I think with the opening and then the segment after this. Because there's actually 2 commercials. The segment after this, they went to commercial and it was 8:38.
That's crazy. But you know what? It never felt like it was dragging.
Yeah, so that whole segment, it was probably 35 minutes or something.
Yeah, this was an excellent, excellent opener. Lots of fun action, lots of fun storytelling, lots of great development and character stuff. And, always a bummer when the good guys lose, but the elite needed this win. The Bucks and Okada needed this win. Ricochet right now is like Teflon. He could lose 100 times, but it's great for his character one way or the other. So this was all just awesome. Awesome. This was the match I was looking forward to most tonight, and to start the show with it was a hell of a way to do it, and I really thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Yeah, I don't want to call this a 2-match card because I thought everything was pretty good tonight, but obviously this and the main event were the two things that I was the most excited for, and they both absolutely delivered.
Yep.
And you were saying they were telling the story of the build towards Kenny Okada again, but you also have this ongoing feud with Speedball and a little bit of Kevin Knight, but mostly Speedball and Ricochet. And I think we're going to get a singles match out of them soon. I don't know if it's going to be on Double or Nothing or somewhere else, but that match is going to be really good. You mentioned Knight slotting in nicely, and I'm very excited to see what he continues to do. I've enjoyed him teaming up with Speedball here early. They're kind of in like a conglomeration 2.0 thing with Briscoe, which I like. I like the idea of that, especially now that Kyle's kind of got onto a team with the Paragon now, or is it just Paragon? I don't know, but
still don't like it. No matter or not crazy about the name.
Yeah, I agree. It's growing on me, but yeah, I understand why they had to move away from Undisputed Kingdom. But digressing, with him going that way and Orange being out. And Ishii was actually around the other week, but he got attacked by the Roppongi Vice again. Yep. I kind of like the idea that, Briscoe has got some new members of, the conglomeration. Even Will kind of joined in the other week for that $8,000 match, or however much it was, $400,000.
$400,000. All 400,000 at the end of the match.
Yeah, that match was great, and so I'm enjoying all of them together, but. Yeah, I liked what they did here tonight. You told a bunch of stories. I think you're going to get some really good matches, both on Dynamite and at the pay-per-views, just stemming from all of these guys being in the ring together. So, really good stuff. I'm curious, actually, maybe we get Speedball and Knight against the Bucks in the near future.
I could see it simply because I think the Bucks are going to need to pad some wins up until they get to Swerve and Hangman.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, that's a really good match that's something you can have on Dynamite or on the pay-per-view. And again, depends on what you want to do with Speedball and Ricochet. But either way, that seems like a match they win super dirty and probably pin Knight or something.
I also think it's worth considering that we're probably going to see Kenny with a partner versus the Bucks at some point too. And simply because, one, you need to kill time until you get to Kenny Okada. And two, Kenny is going to want revenge against his former best friends, his former team, with the Elite, with the Bucks. And we've talked about this before on the pod. Kenny is undefeated against the Bucks in tag matches. In 2-on-2 tag match setting, Kenny, no matter the partner, always comes out on top against the Bucks. Whether it's Hangman, whether it's Kota Ibushi, whether it's Chris goddamn Jericho, he goes over the Bucks. He is 3-0. I personally think this next match would be his first loss. I think whoever his partner will be, the Bucks will get the win, and I think that'll lead, again, a nice padded record for the Bucks until they get to Hangman Swerve.
Well, the obvious answer to Kenny's partner is Swerve.
Yeah.
Because you then probably end up pinning Swerve if you do believe that the Bucks get the dub against them. And that leads to Swerve being upset. And then the Bucks probably fuck Hangman over in the Owen finals. And then, the enemy of my enemy is my friend bit. And Swerve and Hangman are forced to, work together to defeat the Bucks at All In. It writes itself. And again, it's one of those things, look, maybe we're dead wrong. Who knows? Sometimes Toni likes to throw us a little bit of a swerve. Nothing crazy, though. No pun intended. Sure. But it's one of those things where, even if we know the outcome, it's the journey. Yep. And a lot of the times, AEW is going to take us on a really good journey to get there. So I am not complaining if that is the outcome with all of this. All right. Yep. Let's move on to our next segment. We had a quick backstage hit with the Hurt Syndicate as they
hurt people. They hurt people.
I would be careful chanting that because as the Syndicate entered, there was a group of guys chanting that to them. And MVP says it's real fun to chant that, but it's even more fun to do it. And the trio attacked these guys and just whooped their asses. Some of them end up in dumpsters. I think one of them ended up in a was it a laundry thing? They were just all over the place, but it looked fun. Afterwards, They take a few steps away before MVP decides that they need to address the elephant in the room of MJF, with both him and Shelton trying to convince Bobby that it is worth it for Max to join them. Shelton says it's not about MJF, it's about what he can do for them. Plus, he's funny and he knows Bobby likes the car. Bobby's like, I could buy my own car. And MVP's like, we know, you've already bought 2 of them. We understand that. But Shelton's right. And Bobby, he tells Bobby that, you've always trusted me and I've never let you down before. You should trust me here. Plus, if MJF tries to screw with them, they could put a hurt on him like he's never felt before and will never feel again. And this seemingly convinces Bobby and the trio make their way towards their locker room as we go to commercial.
Do we want to just cover that segment next?
Sure. Yeah, we could jump to it. So a little later in the show, the Hurt Syndicate came out for their in-ring promo. Let me just get my notes here. Yep. To give, once again, an official announcement from the Hurt Syndicate, which, by the way, I love how MVP introduces that. This is an official announcement from the Hurt Syndicate. It's just so badass. Anyway, after running through the situation again with MJF and, going over the unanimous approval bylaws, MVP figures they'll try this once again, and he invites MJF to join them in the ring. Max comes out, and he once again starts by kissing the ass of Shelton and MVP before addressing Bob and his car that was stolen last week by Bobby, but MVP cuts all that off, and he's like, let's just get down to the vote. MVP and Shelton both give their thumbs up, leaving it to Bobby, who gives him, after a long dramatic pause, and I mean a long dramatic pause, much teasing, and a look from MVP, he eventually gives the thumbs down. MJF then snaps, and he yells that he is sick of Bob's shit, exactly what he wants and what would intrigue him. And MJF suggests maybe some Rogaine, calling Bobby a big, bald son of a bitch. This obviously pisses Bobby off, who grabs Max by the throat and pushes him into the corner. And Lashley tells MJF that they hurt people, and if he wants to prove himself to Bobby, he needs to hurt someone. Eventually, MVP and Shelton are able to pull Bobby off of Max, and they leave a shook MJF in the ring, with MVP admonishing him for running his mouth. And then as they get to the ramp, Bobby looks back over his shoulder at MJF, who's still like, what the fuck just happened? So I like this, James, because I thought maybe after that first Hurt Syndicate segment, maybe we get the thumbs up and whatever. But Bobby finally putting his hands on MJF, and MJF realizing who he's actually fucking with.
Not someone to mess around with.
Right. And Bobby finally giving him, for lack of a better phrase, a task, a way to actually prove himself to Bobby is a very intriguing option, because now MJF has to find somebody to hurt. And it can't be a scrub either. Yep. Like, MJF's going to have to take somebody down and put them out of commission for a while.
Yep.
So I'm very curious to see who this person is, because I imagine it's going to be a couple of people. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, he starts on the lower rank and he's like, I took that person out. Bobby's like, that's nobody. And hell, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Jeff Jarrett pop up again and MJF puts him on the shelf.
Especially after Jarrett was talking all that shit this week about it.
Exactly. That man was working.
Yeah.
So you maybe see him pop up, and then eventually MJF takes out like a pretty big name in AEW. I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe not somebody crazy big, but big enough where it's going to impress Bobby, and he'll eventually give the thumbs up to Max.
I think it's going to be, personally, I think it's going to be less about the name and more about the attitude. I think we're going to see, like, MJF is going to beat whoever next week or whenever. He'll beat some no-name jobber or whoever, but it's just not going to be impressive. It's just going to be MJF winning a match. And it's not going to impress Bobby and the rest of the syndicate. And then the week after that, MJF is probably going to go a little bit harder. It's not going to be until he shows some real ruthlessness that Bobby and company will absolutely embrace him into this group.
I wouldn't even be surprised if it's not necessarily matches either. We know how MJF doesn't like to have those.
Yeah.
So probably, some beatdowns in the back or something. But again, it's going to take, a big time beating to really impress Lashley. As we say hello to it, he is back. Well. How nice you guys show up this week. I know. James had just gotten off of a plane, or was actually, no, you were still in Japan.
I was still in Japan last week.
Yeah, I was just unavailable last week. So, yeah. Should I put that up? All right.
That was clever, but I can't in good conscience.
Yeah.
Oh,
but yeah, I do think you're right. It's not just going to be like hey, I got the win, or hey, like this person, even if he injures somebody, like even if he like takes somebody, puts them in the Fujiwara armbar, and it's like, oh shit, it's actually broken. Like it's not going to be that. It's going to have to be, he hurts somebody, and not just just kind of for like, I don't want to say for the sake of it, but there's, it's one of those you'll know when you see it type things.
Yeah,
and the Hurt Syndicate definitely knows it when they see it. So I'm really looking forward to what MJF does in the coming weeks to prove himself to Bobby, because I think it's going to be very, very intriguing. All right, let's back things up a little. After the initial Hurt Syndicate segment, we came back from commercial to a match with the Ops up against Nick Comoroto, who I was very, very pleased to see. I don't know why I've always kind of liked him since like the factory days. And
he's
apparently
unique. He's unique. He's got a fun, interesting build and look, and I totally get it.
Yeah, and also apparently he's been hurt for a while, so it was just nice to see him back in action, even though it was what amounted to a squash match. He was teaming up with Rhett Titus and Miles Hawkins, and as I mentioned, this was pretty much just an exhibition for the Ops. Each member came in, kicked the guy's ass of who was legal, and it eventually ended with Hobbs hitting a thunderous spinebuster on Hawkins for the dub.
Yeah.
After the match, as the Ops were getting their hands raised, the Death Riders attacked from behind, with Moxley going right after Joe as Claudio and Wheeler went after Hobbs and Shibata. And Moxley's decision at first seemed to backfire, as Joe was able to beat Mox back and eventually fought him up the ramp and caught him with the coquina clutch at the top of the ramp. However, this was more of a ploy by Moxley to draw Joe away from the ring, as Claudio and Wheeler handled their business. And then Claudio once again took the upside down chair and hit the neutralizer on the legs to Shibata to take him out. Joe then, as he saw this was happening, let Mox go and sprinted down the ring, and but he was too late. And as he finally got there, Claudio and Wheeler bailed out, and then Moxley just kind of sat there and laughed for a while before he joined his Death Rider brethren. Joe then grabbed a mic and said that while Moxley comes out here like a boss, he acts like a bitch. And despite Joe trying to give Moxley what he wants in a one-on-one fight, seems like he doesn't actually really want it. But if Moxley really wants Joe one-on-one, he'll fight the quote-unquote cowardly son of a bitch in a steel cage. And that match is made official for their already planned title match at Beach Break in Chicago. So that match is now a steel cage match after this attack. So that's the big thing out of this, James. I am now very, very excited for that match. I was already excited. Makes it really interesting. I guess I don't know. I mean, Joe seems like he's going to lose here, especially because he has the trios titles. But I feel like this is a holdover until we get up to whatever happens at Double or Nothing. Even if Mox has a match at Double or Nothing, I assume he will.
Yeah,
really, we're just kind of killing time at this point until All In, because Moxley will have the title at that point, I imagine.
I like that they booked it to be a cage match, because even though AEW's cage matches, I don't think you could win via escaping the cage.
You cannot. I think you might get DQ'd.
I don't remember the full thing.
Unless I'm confusing it with what you call it, the Blood and Guts. I know in Blood and Guts, if you escape the cage, you get DQ'd, but
yeah,
you can't win escaping.
But regardless of how you win, cage matches are always sort of designed to protect the babyface and to protect the heel. Like it's designed to help give the heel an easier win. Like, oh no,
which is funny.
Yeah.
Because it's not. It's always, the cage is there to keep everybody out, keep the combatants in, and make it a fair fight, and then it never works that way.
One day maybe, but today will not be that day, and neither will it be in 2 weeks. It's probably going to create a scenario where Joe is stuck in the cage with all of the Death Riders. So I'm good with this because I think it'll add a level of protection for Joe, who, not that he ever needs it, but at the same time, the Ops are obviously riding on such a high right now that you don't want to just completely derail them by having Joe, the centerpiece of that group, just lose. So I think this works out for everybody. I am very eager for this match, no matter the shape. We get it. Cage match or not, this was a match I was very much looking forward to. Joe versus Mox. It's a big defense for Mox. And I don't think anybody is expecting Joe to win, and that's okay. But the cracks are forming with the Death Riders, and we're getting closer and closer to that eventual loss at, God willing, All In.
Yeah.
So, please, God.
Perfect. There was a perfectly good Will Ospreay right there,
No,
Tony.
seriously. I saw somebody, I just want to address this real quick. It's not a tangent, but I saw somebody say that Will Ospreay is not the guy to beat Mox, because whoever beats Mox has to be AEW through and through. They have to be like Mr. AEW. And sure, there are people that have been around AEW longer than Will. A lot of people. But to say that Will hasn't been bleeding, sweating, and crying all things AEW since he's joined the company is insanity. There are a few people better equipped to be the guy to take out Mox than Ospreay. Sure, Hangman might be one of them. But to say that Will shouldn't be the guy is insanity to me.
Will is AEW Francisco Lindor. He didn't come up with us, but he's signed we got him, and he's here long term, and he is our guy, and he is our leader, and could arguably get the C on his chest. You know?
Yeah. No, 1,000%. 1,000%. So yeah, Joe versus Mox, just to get back onto the point of it all, it's going to be a great matchup. The cage match, wrinkle, nice touch as far as I'm concerned. And this 6-man tag, this trios match was good for what it was. Rhett Titus, Nick Camarado. I'm sorry, I'm not too familiar with the third guy.
Miles Hawkins.
Glad you guys got on TV. Happy for you. You did exactly what you needed to. I am intrigued that they did what they did to Shibata, the Death Riders, because there's a part of me that wonders if Hook is coming back. Maybe he takes Shibata's place, because I think they would want gold around Hook more than they care about having it on Shibata.
Maybe. I just thought it was to do it to attack someone, because a lot of people were talking about this when the title change happened, because obviously Hook was out and they substituted him with Hobbs, and now Hobbs is a full-time member of the Ops, which I am totally here for.
Me too. Me too. 100%. Yeah.
He is a great addition to the Ops. So there was a lot of speculation that maybe Hook's out a lot longer than people think. There's been a lot of rumors that he has a concussion, because apparently he threw up at ringside during that match.
Yeah. So my thought process was, especially because Pac is obviously hurt and gone, they needed to rush getting the trios titles off of the Death Riders. They didn't want to be in a position where Mox was constantly in those trios matches with them too. So I think that's why they rushed it, despite Hook being out with the concussion. I want to believe that it was just a mild concussion. Throwing up in the ring was bad.
Yeah.
But we're all on the same page that we're hoping this kid is okay and he'll be back very soon. So I think it was more about Pac than it was Hook.
Yeah. And also, too, I mean, look, everything had all lined up there. Like, the trios titles, I think, were being dropped that night anyway.
Yes, exactly.
So it was a matter of, like, we need to figure this out. And, yeah, there hasn't even been official confirmation that Hook has a concussion as far as I know. So hopefully, whatever it is, he's okay. But, yeah, I don't know. I just thought they did it just because, you know, they took Hook out that way. Doing it again takes Shibata out a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. Because technically, they didn't write Hook off with that.
Yeah.
They wrote him off being attacked backstage before the show the night that they won the titles.
So, I thought they wrote him off with the attack that Claudio hit Shibata with tonight.
No, they wrote him off the very beginning of the greatest Dynamite ever. It started with Excalibur coming out and saying the Death Riders attacked Hook before the show, like before the cameras even got here. He is out for tonight. Taz won't be here tonight either, as he is at the hospital with Hook. And they wrote him out that way, and he hasn't been back since. And then they made Hobbs a permanent member of the Ops, which is, again, great fucking replacement.
Oh, yeah, and he makes total sense for that group, too.
Yeah. Even when Hook comes back, I still want him there.
I agree. And that's why I'm sort of thinking that maybe this attack on Shibata was to maybe open the door for Hook to slide in.
Slide back? Yeah, maybe, but I don't think they're going to write Shibata out just yet.
Yeah. But we'll see. But either way, very well done segment overall with the matchup and the post-match attack.
Yeah, it felt very early Ops as they were before they got the titles and they were warming up to them. It was just like, here's a showcase for everybody. And now that there are new units, kind of, even though they have the titles, they were able to showcase everyone and then, you know, continue the story of Joe versus Mox as we head towards Beach Break.
Yeah.
Plus, it also, you know, this is one of those you can heat Joe up in 2 minutes and have him be a world championship contender things. It's the best.
It's why Joe is such a good contender. If he wins at any point, no one is going to be like, what the hell? What? Samoa Joe? What? No, everyone's going to buy it. So anybody beating him is a huge feather in their cap. Very great position to be in with Joe.
And the setup of Joe passing Moxley out to win the trio titles in the first place, anyone can get caught by the Coquina clutch, and we're all going to believe it.
If I could believe he could take out Brock Lesnar with that move, I could believe he could take out Jon Moxley with that move.
I was watching the highlights of the build to that match, and then the match the other week. Oh, God, it was so good.
Incredible.
The best part about those highlights is you have to watch the night after, because that's you look at me when I'm talking to you, or we're going to settle this right now promo. And it happened after their match. Oh, God, Joe is the best. All right, I will sit here and talk about Joe all day, but we do have to move on. Next up, we had a sit-down interview with Mercedes Moné, hosted obviously by Renee Paquette. And Renee starts things off by talking about the first time she interviewed Mercedes in AEW, saying how Mercedes said she was on a global mission, and Moné says that she was, and she has succeeded in that, now becoming a global champion. Renee then asks about the Owen Hart tournament, and Mercedes says she could go on about the Harts and what they mean and their legacy, to mean to her and their legacy. But this tournament is actually about her and her legacy as she goes on to cement her legacy at All In. Renee then follows up with a question about Jamie Hayter, asking if Mercedes is underestimating her bigger and stronger opponent. But Mercedes says that you just need to look at her record, her personal, as she's undefeated in AEW, having beaten the best both here in AEW and around the world. And as for Jamie, Mercedes says that she sees a lot of herself in Hayter in terms of things like determination, but definitely not in wardrobe, saying she looks like she came out of Scooby-Doo, and you cannot have a cartoon character at the top of the women's division.
Despite Toni Storm being our champion.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you seen the top of the women's division? Second of all, there's very clearly Austin Powers, not Scooby-Doo. I know they're both 70s, or 60s. But yeah, I think those OG ones were 60s. So
Yeah.
of course I was just like, it's definitely it's definitely Austin Powers. And then Jamie came out in something like Daphne colored. So later, at least I think it was. That might just me being colorblind as hell. But yeah, no, I like this. Mercedes, I thought Mercedes did a good job here, seeming like the self-centered person she is, while at the same time putting over Hater enough. It was good.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on.
I didn't have anything to add to that. I think you nailed it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, honestly, there wasn't much to add. I mean, it was good, but, doesn't need a whole 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Speaking of things like that, I came back from commercial with a backstage interview with the Patriarchy as Renee tries to get some thoughts from Nick Wayne about what it means to him going to Japan to represent AEW in the Best of Super Juniors. But Christian cuts him off before he can answer, saying all questions should be directed towards, and then he goes, Jay Lethal, who slid in the shot and distracted Christian. Christian then asks what he could do for Jay, and Lethal says, actually nothing, I'm here to talk to Nick Wayne. And Lethal says that Nick may have that title, the Ring of Honor Television Championship, but he's still got a lot to prove. So why doesn't he prove himself tonight against the longest reigning Ring of Honor TV champ of all time? Nick tries to shut this down, saying he's not ready for a match. He hasn't been prepping for it. He's been focusing on Best Super Juniors, but Christian jumps in to accept the match. Lethal is very excited, and he leaves. And Christian turns to Nick and says, a champ always has to be ready, and he needs to have his head in the game. After that, we went back to the ring for our next match. So our timeless Toni Storm face off against Miyu, let me get this right. Yamashita. Yep, I wrote down the pronunciation guide there. In a AEW Women's World Championship Eliminator match. I'll jump to the end here, where after stunning Toni with a round kick to the head, Yamashita gets caught with a German suplex by Toni, and then she's sent into the corner. Toni then hits the hip attack and immediately follows up with the Storm Zero and picks up the dub. After the match, Mercedes Moné comes out and, mocking Toni's voice a bit, says that after beating Jamie Hayter at Double or Nothing, she's coming for what's rightfully hers, the AEW Women's World Championship. Very presumptuous saying it's rightfully yours. Hayter then comes out, and after some quick jaw-jacking, the two women start throwing hands. Jamie quickly gets the upper hand and tries to go for Haterade, but Mercedes gets her hands up and bails the fuck out, hightailing it through the tunnel, even leaving some of her titles behind. Then as Jamie...
I thought that was such a funny touch.
And I did like Taz being like, she even left one of her million belts behind. The funnier touch, though, was as Jamie's music played, Toni gave her a round of applause in the ring and then started dancing to Toni's music.
Gyrating, convulsing, whatever you want to call it.
Because she was doing her normal, whatever on the floor, and then she just started doing it to the beat of Toni's admittedly awesome fucking music, and it just led to Toni doing God knows what. So I feel like that's going to probably steal a lot of things for a lot of people from this match, but the match itself was really good. I love the matchup. I love the matchup. I don't think I've seen Yamashita before. Not that I can recall. But she was great. Hell of a striker.
Yeah. Oh my! Her kicks when Toni, not because of where she was kicking, but her kicks to Toni's ass when Toni was in the corner and Miyu was on the outside.
Yeah, when she got stuck.
Those kicks landed every time. They looked beautiful every time. When Luther got in the way and was trying to protect Toni, and then she started kicking Luther too. That was just fantastic.
I think
great.
I think it meant that Luther was in there dancing. It also just kind of worked out. But also, it was very Seinfeld.
Yeah,
Lane from Seinfeld.
Yeah, I just great stuff. Miyu, I believe, just left Stardom. I believe she just left Rossi's promotion.
There's been a bit of a rash of Joshi's leaving recently. Yeah. So honestly, I haven't been able to keep track of all of them, especially because I don't recognize all of their names. But she's one of them who's leaving. I'd love to have her in AEW. I don't know if that's going to be a thing, but I did hear. I think I heard Excalibur say she's kind of been on an expedition right now. So
Yeah.
she might be signed still. I have no idea.
What up, Maria? How
Hey,
are you?
Maria. Good to have you back.
But yeah, I really, really enjoyed this matchup. The champion winning was the right move, of course, obviously. But it was a fun, competitive matchup. And we got the stare down. We got Toni versus Mercedes. We got Toni versus Hayter. It's unfortunate for Hayter, but undeniably, it just feels like Mercedes is the bigger matchup. Like, that was the bigger, when the stare down between Mercedes and Toni felt like a huge deal. Jamie being there kind of, at least in regards to her face off with Toni, felt more of a extra. And I feel bad about that. Jamie Hayter, for the longest time, was carrying that division before she got hurt. She was one of, if not the most over women in the division. And then, of course, once Toni started, there was no going back. Toni is the division at this point. And that's not a knock on the rest of the women. The rest of the women are incredible. But it's Toni's division now.
Rising tide lifts all ships,
Exactly.
I think, in this instance. Because Storm has done so well, Khan has booked the women better, and we've gotten probably the best women's division we've seen in AEW maybe ever.
Maria saying in the comments that Mercedes versus Timeless Toni is the money match that needs to happen at All In. Jamie Hayter will be okay doing something else. See, that's the problem, though. You are right, but you also bring up a concern, which is, yes, Mercedes and Toni is the money matchup. There's no denying it. It's not a knock on any other woman in that division, which is stacked. It's just they are the two biggest stars of the division. The problem is I don't like both titles being wrapped up in one matchup at All In. I would rather see, it's been talked about. We've talked about it. Yeah. You guys have talked about it without me. I don't want to.
Maria's been on that same side for the last 3 weeks, and Danny and I have been arguing this point you're making now.
I just don't want to see the TBS title locked into the world title match. And it's not because I have something against champion versus champion. I think that's a great dynamic. It's just when it comes to women's wrestling, and no matter how well Toni has been booking the women lately, the more titles there are on the card, the more matches there are for the women to have. I can't confidently say that someone like Jamie Hayter will have a match at All In if there's not a title involved. So, like, I could see Megan Bayne having a match at the show without a title being involved. And is that fair? Not really, but it's just how everyone's been booked lately.
And also, too, like, how often do the women get non-title matches at any of the pay-per-views?
Exactly.
Let alone friggin' All In. I mean, I think the last one in Wembley, Hayter was on the card against Saraya, right? But in that surprise, but that was a pre-show match.
Yeah.
You know, so it's really difficult for a hey, what's up, Navarro? It's
so,
really difficult.
Welcome.
For a non-title women's match to get on an AEW pay-per-view, unfortunately. It's just the way Tony Khan books.
Yeah.
And I am really hoping that Mercedes doesn't win at Double or Nothing, because I would like to see her face off against somebody in what still probably will be a big money match. And then, because I think it should be Athena. And then you have Hayter not only give Mercedes her first loss in AEW, which will be a big deal. You have her go after Toni Storm, with whom she has a history, and in a match I think is going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
So, and it's not like Hayter's some scrub either. She is a former women's champion from whom Toni took the title when she got hurt.
Yep.
So there is a lot to work with there. And Tony Khan, it likes Jamie Hayter a lot. And now, and this is something I was talking about a bit in our chat the other day. Now that Hayter is back and she seems like she's at 100%, from her injury, but just in terms of her ring work again, because she's been putting out bangers recently, I honestly think Tony's like, all right, I can push her again. She gets the world title shot. we'll do Mercedes against another huge name at All In, and that creates 2 massive matches instead of 1.
I agree with that logic very much. It's unfortunate because I don't think Maria is wrong for wanting that money match. I really don't. It's just for us, it's the concern about the women's division's representation at the show.
Yeah, because
That's
Maria's suggestion, Hayter versus Bane is a good match for All In. Yeah, I would like that match at All In, like in general, but where's that going on the card? Just going based on Tony Khan's previous booking. Where is that going? Is that going on the pre-show, which I know is usually stacked for All In, but still.
And think about it like this. At least this is my perspective on it. When I think about All In and what we're going to get, I know we're going to get Kenny Omega. I know we're going to get Hangman Adam Page. I know we're going to get Swerve Strickland. I know we're going to get Okada. I know we're going to get Jon Moxley. I know we're going to get Samoa Joe. I know we're going to get all of these talents who are undeniably the stars of the men's division. Doesn't matter if they're in a title match or not. Doesn't matter if they're in the world title match or not. Ooh, Anthony Navarro, you're getting me going. We got to talk about that.
Scooch did too.
Really?
Yeah.
Without you?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna go.
Why wouldn't you go? We'll talk about that later. Regardless of all that, I'm not concerned about the men getting representation on the show. Mm-hmm. But for the women, it's a bummer that there's a likely reality. Someone like Statlander isn't going to be on the show. Someone like Willow could not be on the show. Someone like Thunder Rosa could not be on the show.
Yeah, that's Julia Hart, Mariah May, if they want to do anything with her, depending on how that all works out.
Yeah. That is a bump. Wait. Were you calling me cheap or him cheap? Because,
or did you get the tickets cheap?
Yeah, that too.
Be more constructive with your feedback, please.
But why use lot word when few word do trick? Office reference.
Yeah, I got it.
But yeah, no, at the end of it, it's just I want as many women on this card as possible. And when you spread the titles out, you're going to get more women on the show. That's just the reality of it. But okay.
I would say Maria has a good point. Tony Khan does shove a lot of fat on the pay-per-views, and he could cut some of the men's matches for more women. But I'll see it I'll believe it when I see it.
2-day All In. That's where we're going now.
One do one all men's and do one all women's.
There you go.
Watch somebody tell that to Triple H, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll do that."
Yeah, okay, like he cares about the women enough.
Good point.
I love that we're finally entering the period of time where people are realizing that Triple H is not this perfect booker anymore.
Yeah. Also, booking, really quick, because I don't want to do a whole tangent, but booking Raw and SmackDown is way different than booking NXT.
1000%.
You could have you could do more goofy fun shit in NXT that you can't do on the main roster.
Yep, absolutely.
That's why a lot of NXT gimmicks just die on the main roster. So
yeah.
All right, that's a different show. All right, after this match, we went to a promo backstage from the Don Callis family with that Carney piece of shit leading things off. And he says he likes making history. And last week they did that when Takeshita and Alexander put down Will Ospreay and Brody King. And tonight the family will make more history when Fletcher defeats Hangman Adam Page. Spoiler, he did not. And then goes on to end the legacy of Will Ospreay at Double or Nothing. Fletcher then basically echoes this sentiment, adding that he's going to go on to win the title, putting the family at their rightful place on the top, and forcing everyone to say his full name, which Don obliges, saying the protostar Kyle Fletcher in a very annoying yet grandiose voice.
Not even just the voice, it was the physical actions too.
Yeah.
He was gyrating, he was like going like this and patting his back. It was a lot. Like the commentary team did not know how to react to Don Callis in that situation.
It admittedly was pretty funny the way he did it. After this, we had the in-ring promo with the Hurt Syndicate that we went over. Following that, we had a quick vignette for Stokely, just Stokely now, apparently. I'm still probably going to end up calling him Stokely Hathaway, but...
Can I be honest with you? I missed most of this throughout the weeks, obviously. I'm happy Stokely's back on TV. I do not give a shit about him with FTR.
Yeah, it was a random pairing, although there's a lot of theories going around about it that I'll get to in a second. Anyway, Stokely just gave a voiceover saying why he joined up with FTR, mentioning that he was looking for a tag team back in 2024, before he ended up taking that time off. Now he's back, and he's found one in FTR. For his part, Stokely was able to get FTR suspension expunged and their fine rescinded, and FTR was able to take out a long list of people, including Adam Cole, Daniel Garcia, Nigel McGuinness, and even the Rock and Roll Express. So he's very excited. James, the running theory is MJF eventually gets the Pinnacle back together.
I think so too, especially because Pinnacle has been mentioned on TV like 2 or 3 times now. Like that word has been used 2 or 3 times now. So, yeah. But I don't need Stoke to be a part. I don't care about Stokely being a part of that. I feel bad, but I just don't.
Yeah, especially because, there was the kind of Stokely MJF thing when MJF, we thought, had that new group, and then it just turns out he hired them because they really pivoted for whatever reason after that went down. But Stokely and MJF do have a working relationship, I guess, to a certain extent. So him being in a new Pinnacle wouldn't be the dumbest thing. But yeah, I don't know where all this is going. I don't know why FTR needs Stokely. Watch more Collision and find out. Which, again, has been good.
And it's doing very well in the ratings, too.
Yeah, I mean, granted, the NBA and the NHL are helping.
I know. But it doesn't matter how we get there. For the longest time, AEW was getting a huge rub from Big Bang Theory. Doesn't matter how we get there, as long as we're there.
It's true. I think they still do, technically.
Yeah.
I don't know, because when I used to watch on the TBS app, I actually used to have to watch the last, stinger at the end of Big Bang Theory, and I wanted to claw my eyes out. But, yeah. Danny hopping in the chat. James is potting from Japan.
And you couldn't even do it from Citi Field.
No, I couldn't.
No, him. He's at Citi Field. He was at Citi Field tonight.
Oh, geez. Tough one, Danny. Tough one. What? Mentioning Toni and Luther are kind of an odd pairing, but it works. I guess. I mean, Luther's playing, a much different character. Yeah. Like, he's playing into the character. He's not like,
he's not Luther. Yeah, exactly.
Luther.
Exactly.
Maria saying that she's heard MJF and FTR don't want to work together again.
That's interesting.
It's possible.
That is interesting.
Danny mentioning that Stokely and Statlander ended too soon. I think that was because Stokely had requested time off. I think it was for personal reasons. It's why he hasn't been on the show for a while. So they didn't really know what to do with Statlander, and they just ended up turning back face, excuse me. As we say hi to Fernando. What's going on, dude?
Hi.
Maria agreeing with me that Big Bang Theory is a terrible show. And Danny saying he was not at Citi Field. He only goes to games that they win, which is most of them, which is true. Mets have the best record in baseball. Yep. Thank you, Danny. All right. Let's finish things out here as we hit the last match we've got to cover. Saw Nick Wayne face off against Jay Lethal for the Ring of Honor Television Championship, as we mentioned earlier. This was actually Nick Wayne's first defense, and it was a pretty solid one. This ended with Wayne countering Lethal's big moves. First, the King's Elbow, then a figure 4, and then a lethal injection with a bunch of roll-up variations before Wayne was eventually lawn dart Lethal into the turnbuckle before following that up with a nasty roundhouse kick to the ear. Ow, what'd you mean the ear? Wayne then hit what Excalibur called a crisscross fisherman's buster, and he then pinned Lethal for the win. After the match, Christian took the title from Wayne, and it looked like he was going to be an asshole about it, but instead he made Wayne turn around and actually placed the title around Nick's waist. James, this match was fine. They're kind of doing this thing right now where because Nick is going to Best of Super Juniors, I think they're stat padding him a little bit. Win against Jay Lethal's very good,
Winning the title was
also very good.
It's
as,
simply so that title is at the Best of Super Juniors.
Exactly. And
100%.
yeah, and he gets his match against Lethal, which is fine. And putting Lethal in there is also a smart choice too, because you're having that strife backstage with Double J, Lethal, and the rest of the Slapnuts seemingly leaving Sanjay Dutt, and they're kind of trying to keep them on TV to keep people reminded of that as they build out that storyline. So this wasn't anything special. It was nice to see Jay Lethal in the ring on TV again, but nothing to write home about. Good luck, Nick, in the BOSJ. But I don't have a lot for this.
Fernando saying Nick Wayne will turn on Christian at Double or Nothing.
Will he be at Double or Nothing? I don't know when Best of Super Junior starts.
I think it starts next week and it goes for a month. No matter the timeline, we're obviously leading towards a breakup of the patriarchy in some shape or form, no matter how we do it, whether it's Christian turning on Nick or it's Nick and Kip turning on Christian. I'm not sure, but we're getting there because it seems inevitable that we're getting Cope and Christian together. I'm not really crazy about how we're getting there, if I'm going to be really honest with you, but what am I going to say? I'm going to say no to Cope and Christian teaming in 2025. No.
Yeah, with one last run, but yeah, I guess not. Fernando's saying never mind. I did check. It is it's May 10th through June 1st, and Double or Nothing is May 25th, which is annoying because it's Memorial Day weekend, and I'm sure we're all going to be doing stuff. Fernando also saying Jay Lethal doesn't have it much anymore. I don't know. I've seen him put on some bangers when he needs to. We saw him have a great match against Santana at House of Glory.
I'll be honest. I'm going to give you some inside baseball here. That match at House of Glory really turned me against Jay Lethal.
Because he was fighting heel?
No, because he did not want to take a loss to Santana, which is why that match had so much fuckery to it. Like, that's why that match did not have a clean winner / loser. It was because Jay didn't want to lose to Santana. So, I think he could still go. I obviously don't think he could go at the level that he was going 10 years ago, but I think he could still go. Yeah. But at this point, it's just he's booked like garbage one way or the other.
Yeah, I didn't think he really had to do much in this match because this wasn't much of a match, to be honest. And most of it was during commercial.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is what it is. It's saying, technically the father in Christian is teaching him the right way to be a champ by always answering a challenge. You're right. Christian did nothing wrong here.
Except if Christian was champion, he would absolutely say, I'm not wrestling tonight and you can't make me. No.
Yeah. He's also just being a dick about it,
Yep.
There's ways to teach lessons in a positive way and a negative way, and Christian is clearly choosing the negative way. And Maria's saying they obviously have to turn on Christian to get Cope and Christian versus FTR as baby faces. Yeah, we'll get there. I think we'll get there.
Eventually.
Yep. But all right, that was Dynamite, and it was good. I'm not gonna, sit here and say it was great. Obviously, we're coming off some 2 really hot Dynamites, so even when you go from a 10 to a 9 to an 8, that still feels like, or even a 7. I don't know where you put this one, James, but that's still a bit of a gap, even though it's still a very good episode. So obviously, this was bookended by 2 great matches.
Yeah.
The Hurt Syndicate segment wasn't anything special, but I'm really excited for what it set up. I like that. And I enjoyed the women's match a lot too. So we got some really good stuff on this show. And it wasn't 2 weeks ago and because nothing ever will be probably ever again. It was still very solid.
Yeah. You're right. I unfortunately missed being able to talk with you guys about the Mega Dynamite that we had the last few weeks. But I really did think this was a strong show, or at least a show with some very strong points. Like you said, bookended very beautifully with the opening match, that 8-man tag and the main event. with Hangman and Fletcher.
Yeah, 8-man match of the night there for Maria, which I think very easy to argue it's one of those two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just a matter of what your preference is. There's no wrong or right answer there. But yeah, strong show, and more than anything, we're just getting closer and closer to Double or Nothing, and by extension, getting closer and closer to All In. So, strong show that accomplished everything that it was looking to do. I think AEW right now is firing on all cylinders. I think AEW right now is just delivering the best product right now amongst all the wrestling companies on TV. And I'm here for it. Let's just keep on going.
Yeah, I would agree. Maria calling it a 10 out of 10 show. I don't, because again, 2 weeks ago was 10 out of 10, and I don't think this lived up to that. But you're right.
I think 2 weeks ago was like a 12 out of 10. That's the problem.
Okay, all right, Meltzer.
Scales are there to be broken.
True. But no, it's one of those things where I agree with you. It accomplished everything it needed to do, because not every show can be that 12 out of 10 episode. Sometimes you have to do things that or seem a little dull, but help propel the story to where they need to go. And tonight was a lot of that, while we still got some great matches and some really good segments too. So
yeah,
I don't want it to make it sound like I'm complaining. And it is great timing to be doing great right now, as a lot of people, they were very fed up with the ending of WrestleMania, and some people at WrestleMania as a whole. Although I thought there was a lot of good stuff on that show.
I'd
both
agree.
of them. Maria saying 2 weeks ago was a 20 out of 10. So, it's a good point. It's a setup show.
Yes. Absolutely.
And we're going to be continuing to hopefully to keep on this tear that we're going on, especially in 2 weeks. They have beach break. So I imagine we'll get a lot of shit to set up for that next week as well. So I'm really excited with AEW right now. Like you said, we're heading into Double or Nothing, which is always one of their biggest shows. One of the big four, because it's the original four, and then heading into their biggest show of the year in All In. So I am super thrilled. I did see something that piqued my interest, and I wanted your opinion on it, James, really fast. Fernando is saying Kevin Knight and Mike Bailey should face and defeat the Hurt Syndicate. For the tag team championships.
I wouldn't mind Kevin Knight and Speedball beating the guys who beat the Hurt Syndicate. I don't want to see Kevin. I am probably the biggest Speedball and Mike Bailey fan you're going to meet. I love Speedball, and I'm really high on Kevin Knight too. They should not be, to me, sorry, Fernando, they should not beat the Hurt Syndicate. I think the people who beat the Hurt Syndicate should be a team like FTR, should be a team like Cope and Christian, should be a team like possibly the Franken team of Swerve and Hangman. It's got to be a mega team that takes out the Hurt Syndicate.
I really wanted Hounds of Hell, but yeah, you listing those names, they're definitely ahead of those guys, unfortunately.
Yeah. There was a point in time where the Hounds of Hell versus the Hurt Syndicate could have realistically been the change. But the Hurt Syndicate's tag title run just feels too big to go to a team like the Hounds of Hell right now.
Yeah. Plus, Buddy, I think, is a little hurt right now, so they don't have the momentum at the moment. But as for Knight and Bailey, I think it also really depends on whether or not they want to put them in the tag division. I know they're teaming right now and they're like good friends and shit, but I don't know if they want to keep them there full time. So we'll see. We'll see how they end up booking them. It's very early. Both in their AEW tenures, but Knight and Bailey winning the tag titles is something I would not mind seeing at all.
Yeah.
Again, if they want to keep them
as a
tag team.
I could also say if they're going to go singles, Speedball challenging, not necessarily winning, but Speedball challenging Adam Cole for the TNT title would be a great matchup.
Yeah. Danny saying Speedball makes a mystic conglomeration. I think they kind of have a new, little 2.0. I was talking about it earlier. Especially, since Kyle's kind of left, he's still friends with those guys, but, he's mostly doing stuff with the Pinnacle. Orange is out, and Ishii, I think, is back in Japan. So Briscoe got some new guys in Speedball and Knight.
Just shows how replaceable friends are in wrestling.
And then Maria asking how long is Murphy injured for? I don't know. I know he tweaked his ankle a little while ago. It's not as serious as some of his other stuff, but that's why you haven't really seen him on TV recently. I can't remember what match it was in, but it was on Dynamite and it was semi-recent. He tweaked it a little bit. He finished the match, God bless him, but he's been out since, which is why Brody's been mostly doing single stuff. And I think if you watch his CVV interview, he talks a little bit about it. He's like, when I come back, we'll kind of reestablish ourselves, maybe tweak things a little bit, to get away a little bit from the House of Black stuff, but reestablish me, Brody, and Julia back together, and then we'll hopefully get some cool shit out of them. So that's something to look forward to. But, all right. On that note, I'd like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Mark It Down Podcast. We're happy we're back, and we hope you're happy that we're back. And if you are, we'd appreciate it if you like to subscribe. If you like the video, let us know that you're enjoying what we're doing here on the pod. We'll keep doing it. If you subscribe, you continue to get all the good stuff here on the pod. Obviously, we're back here almost every week for Dynamite. 99% of the time, we're back here for Dynamite.
I go on vacation and everything turns to hell.
I missed one episode. Speaking of missing episodes, James, are we having the return of the Gym Pack Zone next week? Or tomorrow, rather?
So I'm going to do my best. It's not because of me. It's just TNA is going live tomorrow, and they're not Impact's not going to air until 10 p.m. So it's not going to end until midnight. So let's see. I as my lower third has tattled on me. Thank you, Maria. I am jet lagged. I am exhausted. I don't even know that I'm awake right now. So let's see how tomorrow night goes. My plan is to go live, but let's see.
Yeah. Maria saying you should catch Rebellion because it was good if you haven't seen it already.
I did see Maria. I want to get back into it.
Jesus. It's saying last week we got the thumbs down on the post saying we weren't going to be here. This week we get the thumbs up though.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. You know it.
I would have, Danny. I would have, and I appreciate you saying it. Did you see that drop?
I did. Yeah, I saw it the next morning, and I was like, "What is everyone yelling about?" And then I finally saw it. And I was like, "Oh!" One
person made any attempt at catching him, and
of all people,
and it was AJ Francis. And I think he tore his bicep in doing so.
He said he almost did. I don't know if he officially did, but
I don't know how that happened. We don't got to get into it right now. I don't know how something like that happens.
Yeah, that was ugly. I'm glad Slater was okay, man, because that did not look good.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to get more thoughts on the Gym Pack Zone, be sure to subscribe. And even if James can't do it next week, he will be back the week after because he loves that show too much to leave you guys for any longer.
I love WWE, NXT, TNA. I love it.
Yeah. NXT's been good, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe they broke the family up, though. You're breaking my hat. Yeah, so if you want to get James' thoughts on Gym Pack, be sure to subscribe. And then I guess we'll try to do other WWE stuff, but clearly we don't care about that.
It's not that we don't care. They just make it really hard.
They really do. And I'm not doing shows on Friday. If you want to check us out on any of our social media stuff and you're here on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or Blue Sky, you can check the links in the description below. Or if you're watching us over on Facebook or Twitter and want to check us out on some other stuff, Twitter is at @marketdown_pod, Instagram at marketdownpod, youtube.com/marketdown3665. Blue Sky is marketdownpod.bsky.social. Or as always, you can just search Market Down Podcast on any social media platform, or at least the ones I mentioned, and you will be able to find us. James, any quick messages before we get out of here as you make your grand return?
Really happy to be back. I missed you guys. I missed you, Rev. I missed our team. I missed our friends here in the comments. Japan is a beautiful, beautiful place. I would love to talk to you guys about it at some point when I'm a little more awake, but beautiful trip. I am still sad I missed WrestleMania, but if you're going to do it for a trip around the world. And we're just climbing and climbing here at the pod. We're at a high in terms of our followers right now, and we appreciate each and every one of you guys. and the good times are rolling. So thank you all for being a part of it.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna need a James gives takes on everything he missed / Japan stories episode.
I just start crying every time we talk about Cena.
I just cried thinking of how he actually won and how bad that main event was.
God.
But yeah. So yeah, maybe keep a lookout for that. And Maria's saying you didn't even miss anything at WrestleMania. Don't worry about it.
You know it. You gotta put the pod is the important part. You got to put pod in, otherwise we get really lost in the shuffle sometimes.
There's a Microsoft thing for that.
I don't know about I can't vouch for Microsoft, but I can vouch that when I look up just Mark It Down sometimes, like I get some really random stuff.
Yeah, I got to put Mark It Down podcast in the search bar, and you'll find it on the social medias. But all right, so for James Ashanti, or returning James Ashanti, my name is Nick Cummings. Thank you so much for watching us here at the Mark It Down podcast. Have a good one, everyone.